Good afternoon, everyone. We thank you all for being here today. We are gathered here today to discuss the Supreme Court's ruling that blocked the Trump administration from ending the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival program that shields undocumented immigrants from deportation. My name is I'm an organizer at Make the Road Nevada, and I'm also part of the UnDocu Council, a subcommittee of the Nevada Immigrant Coalition. And over the past couple of months, the UnDocu Council has been working with partners in the community on the ground, preparing for this moment. And today we celebrate the individuals who paved the way for us to be here, the individuals who in 2010 put their lives on the line so that we could have a program like DACA. But this is not enough. We plan on organizing after our celebration. So at this moment, I'd like to introduce Jocelyn Cuevas, a member of the UnDocu Council and a DACA recipient. Jocelyn?
Thank you. Hello, my name is Jocelyn, and I am a DACA recipient. I, along with the rest of the UnDocu Council, have been working to prepare a decision. We are preparing for the worst because of the way the administration treats immigrants and getting ready to have that tough conversation with our community on what to do next. While this question still remains in some way, it is joined along with a moment of celebration today. I was awake at 5 a.m. waiting to see if today was decision day. To my surprise, when I saw that the court had sided with us. After composing myself, I ran into my parents' rooms, woke up my mom, and looked at her. The only thing I could say was, "We won." She looked at me, we hugged each other, and we cried as we enjoyed our win. But the question comes, what do we do now? What does this mean? DACA was a case voted on a 5-4 decision, ruling against the Trump administration to remove the program. This decision was because of a violation to the Administrative Procedure Act. This means what we already knew, that the Trump administration did not take into account what would happen if they rescinded the program. They did not take into account the thousands of lives depending on this program to work and provide for their families. They did not take into account the lives of high schoolers graduating not knowing what they were going to do. The Trump administration did not care, and the Supreme Court made that clear by ruling in favor of hundreds of thousands of immigrants and their loved ones. The administration must accept DACA renewals and new DACA applications. While we know this is not a permanent solution, and we will keep fighting for more, we must allow ourselves to celebrate and enjoy the outcome of today's decision. Thank you.
Now here to share the legality end of this decision is immigration attorney Dee So, who will provide an analysis on what today's decision means.
Thank you. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court blocked the Trump administration's rescission of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, known as the DACA program. The program protecting undocumented immigrants brought to this country, children who were brought to this country, known as Dreamers. The 5-4 decision was written by Chief Justice John G. Roberts, Jr. and joined by the court's 4 liberal judges. The decision means that Dreamers across the country will continue to have temporary protection from deportation. The Supreme Court held that the government's effort to terminate DACA program was arbitrary and capricious and remanded the case for further consideration. Chief Justice John Roberts noted the following: "We address only whether the Department of Homeland Security complied with the procedural requirement that it provided a reasoned explanation for its action. Here, the agency failed to consider the conspicuous issues of whether to retain forbearance and what, if anything, to do about the hardship to DACA recipients. The dual failure raises doubts about whether the agency appreciated the scope of its discretion or exercised that discretion in a reasonable manner. It also underscores the incredible importance of our nation's foundational principle of separation of powers and the need for accountability in government agency actions. On the importance of the DHS following correct procedure and essentially that it must govern by the book, the court cited the famous Justice Holmes in a 1920 decision that the government should turn square corners in dealing with the people. Dreamers across the country and those who love and depend on them are a breathing sigh of relief, having lived in fear and uncertainty since the Trump administration targeted the DACA program for termination. Despite this great news and our exhilaration over the decision, the court has made it clear that the president has both the power to continue the program and the power to terminate if he follows the correct legal process. For the sake of not only dreamers, but for our nation, the legal limbo must end. Congress must act immediately and pass the permanent protection for dreamers once and for all. The great majority of Americans from across the political spectrum want dreamers protected with permanent residency in America. With such resounding support, Congress can and must pass a bipartisan solution to quickly, permanently address this issue. Must DHS now accept DACA applications? Since DACA stands, DHS bears the responsibility to those who depend on this program. And for that reason, until and unless DHS ends DACA in the correct way as the court instructed, meaningful, a careful, reasoned process, DHS must create a process to review new and renewal applications rationally, fairly, and expeditiously. I urge those of you who are recipients or future recipients of DACA to go speak to an immigration attorney. I will vouch for the American Immigration Lawyers Association. There's talented immigration attorneys there that you can seek, and many that care deeply about this issue. And a call to the American people, let's call our Congress and senators and make this happen for all Americans. Thank you.
And I would just like to echo Diesel's comment about Congress can and must pass a bipartisan effort. This is not a one-sided effort or a partisan issue. We believe this is a bipartisan issue, and what we've been consistent with our mission is to pass a fair immigration comprehensive reform for this community, and that's something that we've always been consistent since the early 2000s. Now, next up, we'd like to introduce Carla Ramirez, a member of the Undocumented Council and also a DACA recipient. Carla?
Thank you. Like Rico and Jocelyn, I am also a DACA recipient. I came to the United States at a very young age. I was only a year and a half. This is a country where I grew up, the only place I know, and the place that I call home. Growing up, I didn't really understand what being undocumented was, but when I finally found out that I wouldn't be able to get a driver's license or legally get a job, I was devastated, and I knew that I wouldn't have the same opportunities as my peers. When I turned 15, I was feeling like I was finally able to turn in my DACA application. It gave me an opportunity, like I said, to get a driver's license and legally work in the United States, and I was able to have a normal life just like everyone else. Thanks to DACA, I was able to work for my education, and however, DACA didn't give that same opportunity to my family, and after the Trump administration rescinded DACA, they took that opportunity from people that are younger than I am. The undocumented class of 2020 graduated without any protection, and that left them without any hope pretty much until now. Now that the court sided with DACA, they have the opportunity to apply for DACA. And so what we are urging people to do now is to renew their DACA as soon as they can, and if you are not a DACA recipient, to gather all of the things that you have so that you're able to apply for DACA when the applications come out, and as soon as you can. What you can do now is follow @UndocuCouncil on Twitter, and also follow the Nevada Immigrant Coalition on Facebook, so that you can get the correct information that you need and so that you can stay informed. If you are not directly impacted, you can also donate to funds that are helping DACA recipients and dreamers get their DACA renewals in, because they are around $500, and right now during a pandemic, it's really hard for us to gather those funds. So do whatever you can and stand with your immigrant community. Thank you.
Today's decision from the Supreme Court is a win for the undocumented community, but again, it is not a victory. We are not done fighting, and I repeat, this fight is far from over. We stand here as one, but we come as 10,000, and we represent the individuals who paved the way for us to be here having this press conference with you. And so what we are asking is not just protections for dreamers like myself, Jocelyn and Carla. We are asking for protection and a fair pathway to citizenship for individuals who might not have qualified for DACA, for undocumented members who may have been too old for DACA. We are not leaving those communities behind. We are not leaving them in the dust. We are advocating for those communities as much as we are advocating for our community as well. And we also want to reiterate that we demand Congress to pass a permanent protection for all undocumented individuals that provides a fair pathway to citizenship without harming other undocumented individuals. Now, in solidarity with the Movement for Black Lives, we also call to have divestments from police and investments in police in black communities. That is something that is still within our hearts. We are still in a pandemic, and Black lives still matter today. Now, we will be having a Facebook Live today at 6 p.m. with attorneys and the Office of New Americans through the Nevada Immigrant Coalition Facebook page at 6 p.m. Where we'll be able to do a Q&A for the community. And on top of that, we also have a Friday event happening at 6 p.m. through the UNLV Immigration Law Clinic. Now, at this point, I'd like to pass it on to Q&A in case you guys have any questions in regards to the decision that was handed down today from the Supreme Court. Okay. Spelling of everyone's name.
Do you want to know?
Okay. Thank you all so much for being here and showing not only support for this decision, but also giving us the ability to share these stories with you today. Thank you.